disclaimer. The crowd clapped, cameras flashed. The lights on the school auditorium stage gleamed as the anchor announced. And this year's National Excellence in Science Award goes to Zuri James. The moment should have been magic for 14-year-old Zuri, a brilliant black student who had worked night and day for her project. But instead of celebration, the world watched in horror as her teacher snatched the certificate from her hands and tore it in half on live TV. But what happened next? No one could have predicted, because karma that day came quickly. Zuri James was the kind of student teachers usually dream about: soft-spoken, respectful, and incredibly intelligent. She was known around Lincoln Middle School for her love of astronomy and robotics. Her single mom, Mariah, worked 2 jobs just to keep Zuri in school clubs and science camps. They didn't have much, but they had each other, and they had big dreams. Zuri's 8th grade science project, harnessing solar power for urban classrooms, won her the city title, then the state, and finally qualified her for the National Excellence in Science Awards, a nationally televised competition celebrating bright young minds. Her teacher, Mrs. Landon, had never hidden her dislike for Zuri. While she praised other students openly, she often ignored Zuri's raised hand, dismissed her questions, and once even told her, "Science isn't for everyone." Still, Zuri stayed kind, stayed focused. And when the day of the awards ceremony arrived, she wore her best blue dress, held her head high, and just hoped she could make her mom proud. The auditorium was packed. Families, students, teachers from all over the country had gathered for the televised ceremony. The announcer called out Zuri's name, and the crowd erupted. Zuri stepped forward, nervous but beaming. She held out her hand as the award certificate was presented to her. Before she could take it fully, Mrs. Landon, standing behind her as the school's representative, ripped it right down the middle. Gasps filled the room. The camera zoomed in. Mrs. Landon turned to the stunned announcer and said, "This must be a mistake. That award was meant for a student who actually deserves it." Zuri froze. The torn certificate fluttered to the ground. Silence. Zuri looked out at the crowd, her eyes glassy but not broken. Her mom, sitting in the front row, stood up, her face unreadable. A reporter nearby dropped her pen. The live feed cut to commercial, but the internet had already seen it. Within minutes, the clip hit social media. Within an hour, it had over 5 million views. By morning, it was everywhere. #Justice for Zuri began trending worldwide. People were furious. Students, teachers, celebrities, and scientists came forward in support of Zuri. Renowned black scientist Dr. Mia Collins posted, "This young girl deserves celebration, not humiliation. I'm inviting her to tour my lab." The school tried to control the damage. Mrs. Landon issued a weak apology, claiming it was a misunderstanding, but it was too late. News outlets began digging, and it came out that Zuri had been overlooked for multiple honors in the past by the same teacher. The school board called an emergency meeting. Mrs. Landon was suspended, then permanently removed from her position. But that wasn't the only twist. A representative from the National Science Initiative contacted Zuri's mother directly. "We don't just want to give Zuri a new certificate," they said. "We want to give her a scholarship and a platform." Zuri was invited to speak on national morning shows. She shared her love for science, how she nearly gave up, but how the support of her mom and community kept her going. 1 month later, Zuri stood again on a stage, this time at the National Youth Science Summit, being recognized as Student Innovator of the Year. But she didn't walk up alone. She brought her mom with her. And this time, when the host handed her the award, Zuri held it proudly, smiled, and said into the mic, "This award isn't just mine. It belongs to every kid who was ever told they didn't belong. To every girl who stayed curious, even when people tried to silence her." The crowd stood to its feet. Back in her hometown, the mayor declared it Zuri James Day. A mural of her now decorates the school library, wall painted by students who were inspired by her courage. And Zuri, she's already started her next project, building solar-powered air purifiers for classrooms in underfunded schools. Because that's what Zuri does. She turns injustice into innovation, and silence into a voice for change. What are your thoughts on this story? Comment and subscribe, Lifelines.